Now listen, it is Thursday. It is time for the AEW Dynamite review here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast. But on top of everything, I want to know, how the hell are you doing? How are you on this last Thursday of August? Summer is going away. It's almost done. It's almost over. I personally cannot welcome the fall more than I already am right now, which is a lot. I love the fall. Contrastively, I love fall. Fall, I believe I've mentioned this before on previous iterations of my recordings. I love the fall. I absolutely love the autumn. I love the change of the seasons, heading into winter. Fall is absolutely my favorite season. Summer is absolutely my least favorite season. I don't get it. No, this is not true. I understand why people are into it. I really do. And I'd be lying if I didn't appreciate, the beautiful sunny days, the long days, that kind of stuff. I'd be lying if I didn't appreciate summer for that kind of stuff. However, I believe the negatives that come with summer outweigh the positives tremendously. There's no, everything, it gets really hot. Everyone is sweaty. Everyone is all disgusting and gross. When it's hot, it's really hard to escape the heat. Like, even if you have your AC units, pumping out at full force, there's still pockets in your home where you're like, ugh. Oh, this is not good right here, like in this space, this room right here. I enter this room and you can feel like the wall of heat and humidity just as you enter. As if you're just passing through a shroud of disgusting grossness. You know exactly what I'm talking about on top of, don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying here. And then going outside is miserable. Starting your car, getting in the car, and you start up your car and the steering wheel is boiling hot because it's been in the sun all day. There's so many disadvantages, and the fashion. I hate summer fashion. Dudes walking around with what do you, I guess, wife beaters essentially, but the ones that have these really long cuts around the armpits on the side, so you see everything. You see the armpit hair, and I'm like, this is shit that I don't want to see as I'm walking down the street, as I'm going to the convenience store, as I'm going to I didn't sign up when I went outside to see gross armpit hair everywhere I turn. I'm sorry. Everyone looks disgusting and hot during the summer. I cannot wait. And there's nothing worse than going to sleep and it's still 20 degrees Celsius at midnight. And it's still 20. It's this is awful. This is nothing. I can't stand it. I'm so excited for today here is a day in my perfect type of weather, the type of weather I like the most, which is hoodie and sandals weather, where you can still wear your sandals, your open-toed shoes or whatever. You can still wear those, but it's chilly enough where you want something over your arm, so you grab a hoodie, you zip it up, and you go out, and you walk your dog, and you're like, this rules right now. And it's not cold. It's nice and warm. The sun is beautiful. The sun is out. It's a beautiful day. But it's just, it's just chilly enough where you're like, I got to bundle up just a little bit. But I can still wear, my sandals with this. This is the best time. This is the best time of year. This is the shit that gets me excited when it comes to weather. And Dynamite's like last night is the kind of shit that gets me excited for pro wrestling at the same time. So we're going full circle here. It's a good mood Warren is in today. It's a good mood. Yeah, we should actually talk about the show, come to think of it. Maybe we should get into it, but thank you for being here. I haven't done that yet, but thank you very much for being here. Thank you for joining me. Of course, if you're watching this on YouTube right now at youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, well, hey, leave a like. And that would be tremendous. And you can also leave a subscription, which is also tremendous as well, and would also prove that my banter about the seasons is not driving people away. Also you can, and also if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, 5-star ratings on Spotify would also be a tremendous boon to the podcast. So why did I like the show so much? Why did I enjoy it so much? Look, I don't think it was let's get into the weeds here. I didn't think it was a great Dynamite, but I thought it was a very, very good Dynamite, and I think it was very compelling, and you really do get a sense of the direction that we're going, heading into All Out, and maybe even a little further down the road as well. But there's some really interesting elements, some intrigue, all sorts of great little things that popped in onto Dynamite last night where I'm like, I got no qualms. Like, this feels good. We're coming out of Wembley, which was a huge, eventful show, a successful show for them. I believe as much on the business side as the creative side as well. And now we're starting off a new cycle that really does feel like a new chapter moving forward. And the way it was built, the way this show came together, and I'm going to have to quote Chris Samsa here, with whom I was chatting during the in one of our group chats, with whom I was chatting with while watching Dynamite last night. He said, and I completely agree with him. It felt like this company is coming out of Wembley with the confidence of a company that just put 50,000 people into a stadium, and one of the greatest of all times is their world champion. Like, this is how AEW feels right now, and this is how that last night's Dynamite was built. Exactly like that. It's the perfect abstract. It's the perfect summary. You had tremendous success. You have a world champion who was a recognized and undebatably one of the greatest of all time as your world champion. Plus, on top of that, you have the imminent announcement of the TV deal. Like, all of these things put together made Dynamite feel last night like Tony Khan is booking a promotion that he feels good in, that is riding a wave of momentum, and it feels like it's profitable. All of these things together created last night's Dynamite, which I thought was a very good episode, and one that I also feel should instill some form of confidence. Because I know and look, these things waver. It's not a perfect promotion. But the way things were laid out here, and how a lot of things just naturally led into All Out. The Garcia MJF stuff, the Swerve Hangman stuff. These things cannot happen unless you have some long-term booking plans. We talked about it a little bit over the past couple of weeks, and particularly when I previewed All Out a couple of weeks ago. But it feels like the long-term booking that AEW had been the undisputed king of is coming back. There was a time where it felt week to week, a little bit of nonsense, that you're losing direction. Now there are things that are happening that you could not achieve, that you could not get to this point, that you could not present with such confidence in the weeks leading up right to this moment in history right now, that could not be achieved unless you were back to long-term booking, to putting things on the board, on the calendar, saying this is what's going to happen on this show on this date, and then booking backwards from that, right? And then working the path to this moment. That you're feeling it. You feel it, and you felt it with All In as well. Like I said, you know, one of the main tenets of my preview for All In was everything has a story. Everything has been built. Every single match on that show had a story, and it was like to a fault. Now, were they all successful? No. Were they all good? No. Did the end result deliver for in every single one? No, not as well. No. But nonetheless, the builds are there. The stories are there. Whatever people are complaining about when it comes to creative for AEW right now, whatever they're complaining about is not there. People who are saying AEW don't there's no stories, it's just stuff happening. They're not watching. Like you cannot be watching AEW. And we're drawing a line here, folks. If you're watching AEW right now and you're saying there are no stories, they're just throwing matches together, who cares? If you're not watching Dynamite every week or even Collision, if you're watching Dynamite and Collision every week, and this is the conclusion you come to, you are bad faith. That's just as simple as that. Because there's no way you can watch these shows or go into All In and say, there's no stories. You cannot. If you do, it's like I said, it is just plain old bad faith at this point. So really, the theme of the show is confidence. The confidence of a promoter, a promotion, getting its groove back, finding its direction. It finally feels like we are lifting ourselves up and away from the dismal 2023 that has been so detrimental to the company's aura, the organization itself, and to its business. I feel like finally there has been a long stretch of just good things happening, of clear booking, of a recentering of everything, essentially, moving forward here. Again, is everything perfect? No. What wrestling promotion is? But if we get more and more shows like we got yesterday, if there are more and more demonstrations that the booking is back to being solid and well thought out and with a plan, then we're on the right path, brother. So let's dig in here. The August 28th show that we'll be talking about of the year 2024 in Champaign, Illinois. Champaign, Illinois, right? State Farm Center. Now, with all the bluster that I am currently exhibiting in regards to this show, of course the ticket sales are rather dismal. Like this was not a good show for ticket sales. And well, look, let's start by talking about the numbers here. According to WrestleTix, of course, 2,053 tickets distributed for last night's show. So for the longest time, this show was under 2,000 tickets, and according to WrestleTix, we just barely cracked over 2K. However, WrestleTix does note that the map was a little hard to follow because it's changed multiple times over the past few days. This is what technically they said. Honestly, I have no idea what they are doing with these upper decks because it appears, based on the pattern of the available tickets, very few tickets have been distributed up there. He had some screenshots. He then basically says, because of all of this, very difficult to work with. We usually only see this with the shows not doing so well. And this show did not do well. The last time that AEW was in Champaign was all the way back in 2019. Like, this is not a market that they've been running into the ground by any stretch of the imagination. They were there essentially 5 years ago. 4,100 people were drawn. December 4, 41 people. 41,000, 4,100, 41 to 41,000 to 4,100. 4,100 tickets were distributed. So it's basically half of that. So we still can't say with confidence that this is a despite the fact that the creative is very good, that people have suddenly turned the corner and the fans are coming back. I am of the belief, along with a bunch of other people, that 2023 did run off quite a few fans of AEW. I think the fact that WWE got hot again also took away some wrestling fans. But I also think, I think the fans that are left who buy tickets to go see AEW are the hardcore, like they're the hardcorest of hardcore fans who do that. It's not the same vibe. Sure, the creative is getting better, but it's going to take a little more time before it transcends into a huge shift in ticket sales. I think we can all agree on that. But, I can't. I think it's fair to assume that that AEW doesn't necessarily see this as a success. Coming off of their biggest show of the year, the show that they're purporting to be a WrestleMania, putting the title on Danielson, the fact that they probably moved some more tickets, but not to an astounding degree. Like, there is no one right now in AEW who is a draw. Like, there's no one, and it's not necessarily I'm not knocking Danielson, just like I'm not going to knock Swerve, or like there's no one in AEW who is a clear-cut proven draw. And I think it still shows. And I think that AEW's woes, as far as public opinion goes, public relations go, whichever way you want to call it, I don't think this is necessarily a good thing. In fact, it's not. I don't think it's necessarily I don't think we're seeing a profound trend, a profound change yet. I think it's going to take some time. And again, like we've said, maybe with the media deal, happening, or at least on the cusp of being announced, right? Maybe we're not going to be. We'll stop making such a big deal out of ticket sales. Maybe it's not even such a big deal right now in Tony Khan's mind, where it's like, well, with the money coming in, it doesn't really matter what our houses are like. However, On the flip side, smaller venues like this, don't help the vibe of a show. Because listen, that the State Farm Center last night sounded so off and empty. And I don't know if it's just mic issues, because let's be honest, AEW's audio issues these days, their audio mixing has been absolutely egregious. If we're being honest, this has been a constant, and I felt last night everything audibly sounded off. So I don't know if it was just poor miking of the crowd, but the smaller audience last night, I feel, took away from the vibe that we got on the show. I don't think I think it was a detriment. I think a bigger crowd would have made things feel even more exciting. But that place sounded like a cavern. It didn't sound like people cheering. It sounded like echoes of people cheering. It wasn't a great setup for on that front. But hey, we're going to continue, of course, to keep an eye on all of this. But again, it wasn't a good night for ticket sales. We had a smaller audience, and I think it came through on TV. The awkward camera shots from the arena, and just the overall vibe that it produced. I don't think it was good. Anyway, let's get into the show. It opens with a recap of Bryan Danielson winning the title at All In. Of course, they punctuated in that the involvement of Hangman Adam Page at least showing up to screw up Strickland's night. But then, out of nowhere, Jon Moxley's music hits, something that a lot of us were not expecting. I don't think anyone was really expecting it. But it's his Death Rider theme, right? Not his original theme, not Wild Thing. So this is serious business. He comes out, makes his way to the ring, and Tony Schiavone's like, "Oh, this is unexpected. We were supposed to, every commentary's going, we were supposed to go to a match. Then we have Jon Moxley," and Tony Schiavone's like, "I'm on it, brother." He grabs a mic, makes his way to the ring. He's ready to talk to him. Mox says that he hasn't been talking much, but he's been doing a lot of thinking. And he's here to have a conversation with someone who is not there. And he calls him out. He says, "It's Darby Allin. I'm not hard to find. Come and have a chat." And he tells Tony Schiavone that this isn't his company anymore before hitting the bricks. Why don't we'll combine this with something that happens much later on in the evening, really towards the end. This happened after Ricochet versus Kyle Fletcher, where we had Jon Moxley walking out of the arena, and someone says, "Hey, what?" Someone off camera is shouting at him and saying, John, what's going on? What did you mean by what you said earlier?" And he says something about casting pearls before swine, and he grabs a dude, and Marina Shafir shows up out of nowhere, and I did not recognize him. I was like, "Who the hell is this? Who is it?" Even she starts beating up on the dudes, right, on the security guys, and even the security guys are like, "Ma'am, what are you doing, ma'am?" And who is this? Who is this debut? Who's star? Then you realize once she stopped throwing people around, it's like, oh, it's Marina Shafir. Like, she didn't look like any version of Marina Shafir we had seen so far on AEW, so it's kind of shocking. So there's some kind of alliance here going on with Mox. Mox is he going around recruiting people? Does he want to create a new group, is he severing ties with the BCC? Is it time for, I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing, I'm intrigued. Like, this was one of the most intriguing things to come out of last night, and that's happened in AEW for a while. Yeah, you can't go wrong with a good old-fashioned what the hell is going on angle, and this is one that works, and it's with a top guy who has been off television, whose rumors of being, I don't want to say unhappy, but dissatisfied with how things had been going in the company, have left a lot of speculation open as to what the next steps for him were going to be. Now, clearly, and kind of like I told y'all, he's not going anywhere. At least not yet. He's clearly being put in a high level angle, something that will have some impact. It's going to involve Darby Allin on some front. What else is going to happen here? Like, right now, you have the impression that Jon Moxley is putting together a group of pro wrestlers. For some reason. Look, I don't even know how to begin to speculate on this. I think this is one where I'm just going to let the seeds continue to be sown and see how this comes together. But, I think bringing in Marina Shafir into his fold, I think it quickly establishes that he's aligning himself with shooters, with people who have a certain background. Maybe. Or maybe we're just completely off base. Is he leaving the BCC? Maybe. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of speculation going on, and I think it would be such poetic justice if, is it justice or just poetic period? It's not even a question of justice, just poetic period, if Jon Moxley ended up retiring Bryan Danielson. Because, of course, we're going to get to Danielson's speech, but, one of the things that he said is like, I'm not retiring as long as I'm world champion. Well, why not allow Jon Moxley to get the title back off of Danielson, his former friend and stablemate, and then Moxley having another run as world champion, which would be fundamentally tremendous. I think it's a very good idea. Now, is this what we're doing? Is this, right now? I couldn't tell you. But I'll be damned if I'm not intrigued by this, and if I'm not excited to see Jon Moxley back on TV. Y'all worry too much. Y'all worry way too much. I know a lot of you were very, very worried about the future of Jon Moxley in AEW. And again, this is something we talked about. I talked about it on the review this week again on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast. Talked about it again. Jon Moxley, at the very least, right now, wasn't going anywhere. Something was going to happen. And there we go. I told y'all to relax. So you gotta learn to not be worried all the time. You gotta learn to just relax. But this is interesting. It's good. Gets the mind spinning. It feels like a compelling angle. Feels like something different. It feels like something important that has to be done for one of the top stars to get him back into the conversation. Because if we're being honest, Moxley's 2024 hasn't been all that fantastic for multiple reasons. And I think the time off was warranted, and I think was required. I think, a lot of things needed to be reset, and I think it's good. I'm pretty sure it was good for him. Now he's going to come back to work. There's still something there. There's still something there in Jon Moxley in AEW. I'm convinced about it. Now we'll see how this this one here turns out. Renee Paquette then, as if we're following the family. Renee Paquette is backstage with the conglomeration. Hook is there as well. Is Hook a part of the conglomeration, or is he just a hanger-on because he's friends with Orange Cassidy and whatnot? I hope he's still friends with Samoa Joe. Like, I know Joe is off doing the Twisted Metal, but I think you got to be careful with Hook, because I think we finally established, thanks to hanging out with guys like Joe and Shibata in that little group, he's finally coming across as a tough guy. If we start sending him back with Orange Cassidy and eating chips and being a goofball, I think we're going to lose a lot of the good work that was put in to make him a tough guy. Anyway, Mark Briscoe takes the lead per usual in the conglomeration interviews. He says they got a lot going on. Tomohiro Ishii is about to whip some cowboy ass. And he says the rest of us have some Atomicos action. Puts over the fact that Hook won the FTW title back. Willow Nightingale says she gets to decide what kind of ass whooping Chris Statlander is going to get. And she says that CMLL doesn't want to sanction the match she wants, which is a Chicago street fight. And then I go, aha! Because I was still wondering how this was going to play out. And then it went, aha! Remember, just leading up to this, I was here telling you, not cool. I'm surprised that CMLL is just letting stuff happen, and she's going to get to defend on the pay-per-view, and it's against Chris Statlander. She's going to defend the CMLL Women's World Championship against her, and I'm like, this is all very peculiar to me, but okay, and then and now you got it. Now you have it laid right there, because there were not only did I find it peculiar that CMLL would have been okay with this, but then it was like, Chris Statlander cannot lose again. Chris Statlander has to start picking up some big wins here. And is CMLL going to be okay with Chris Statlander winning the Women's World Championship? Like, then I was like, maybe, I guess the partnership is really strong. Like, it just seemed peculiar to me. Now, I'm like, aha, I get it. This is not going to be an official CMLL match for the title. We're not putting the title on the line because CMLL is quote unquote not sanctioning it. Basically, they're saying, no, we don't want our title defended in this type of circumstance, and we don't want Chris Statlander winning. And that's fine. So they decide to go unsanctioned street fight. I think this telegraphs that Chris Statlander's winning. I think she had to win this. She still has to win this match. Like, we got to stop pretending that Statlander is just can keep taking losses here. She can't. So we're going to have the two of them in a street fight for All Out, and I think that'll be a lot of fun. And then Tomohiro Ishii heads out for his match against Hangman Adam Page, which he lost. In a good match, though. I thought this was a good match. They had themselves a good little G1 match. I think that's the best way to put it. They were striking hard at each other. Don't forget, Adam Page has worked Japan, so he knows how this one goes, right? And Hangman lays him out on the apron, DDTs Tomohiro Ishii right there. Ishii later gets a superplex. a DVD by Paige, a German by Ishii, and Hangman is trying to work in some submissions to try and take him out. German suplex by Ishii, but Paige lands on his feet, so he lands a German suplex. Ishii lands a wild air raid crash type of move, like where Paige just landed on his shoulder. It was just a wild move. Huge strikes by both guys, which leads to a Deadeye by Hangman and a buckshot lariat for the win. Good match. I enjoyed it. I gave it 3 3/4 stars. I thought it was very good, actually. Very good match. After the match, Swerve makes his way to the ring. He's got Prince Nana. He's got a microphone. He says he feels sorry for him. He says that Paige has become a petulant child, every tantrum taking him further from success as Swerve just gets closer to it. He mentions that, he may have lost the gold, but it's only a matter of time before he becomes world champion again. So that's good. Like, it was a very good promo in this sense that Strickland established, I'm changing gears here. I'm going after this guy, but I'm still interested in being the world champion. Don't get me wrong. I will be world champion once again. Paige gets really annoyed at him, starts screaming right in his face that he's not the champion of anything. He's not the champion of anything. He's just a piece of shit. Like, holy crap. Like, Unhinged Hangman is really tremendous. And he says he wants to fight Strickland one more time. Strickland challenges him to a steel cage at All Out. And then he tells a story that, he had went to his house again, a place that he knows very well. Like, Strickland was very good here. Went to your house again while you were injured, and he says, I saw you one morning escorting your wife out of the house with a little suitcase, where she was going to give birth to your second child. And then Swerve says, this is the moment that I realized that this is the man that you were supposed to be. So I didn't need to focus on you anymore. You were focused on your family, on your kids. Me, I'm focused on being the best. I'm focused on being a champion. So you're not even worth my consideration. You're not the guy. You're not the guy who you're supposed to be. You want to be a dad. You don't want to be a world champion. So I'm like, there we go. Great use of the downtime from Paige for Swerve to come back and say, yeah, this is, while you were gone, you were doing this. Meanwhile, I became world champion, and you just want to be a dad. And that explains why Swerve was paying him no mind. I thought this was a tremendous promo. And then, of course, here's an important, I guess, story bump, character development, whatever you want to call it. Paige, instead of going unhinged at him, just leaves. And we've seen Paige do this before when he's confronted with his I guess personality flaws, I guess is what you'd call it. He gets anxious and he doesn't know what to say and he leaves. So no matter how unhinged Hangman has been recently, there's still the anxious cowboy who's still in there. And we may have witnessed the begin of another double turn here, because folks had turned on Swerve during the Danielson match. They had to. We talked about it on the review. And maybe it's time for both guys to find their natural roles in the pecking order again, with Hangman Adam Page being a babyface and Swerve just being a dastardly heel. Maybe. Like, if they were to pivot here, I wouldn't be surprised. I feel like the groundwork was laid out. How about that? Great segment. Like, just a fantastic segment leading up to a match that is naturally hot, that is going to be tremendous, and that people are going to watch and be excited for. It didn't have to be on All In. We're getting it all out. It is fantastic. Jamie Hayter made her in-ring return, defeating Harley Cameron in a good little enhancement match. I think that was absolutely fine. Hayter looks good. No longer, she's doing, I don't know. Look, is this a new finisher? Because she can't do the Haterade anymore. She can't do the Rainmaker anymore because the Rainmaker is actually in the company, right? So she was probably told, well, you can't do the Ripcord Lariat anymore. So now she's doing a Hammerlock Lariat, which is tremendous as well. Don't get me wrong, but we'll just keep an eye on that. Renee Paquette is backstage with Chris Jericho and his boys, along with Roderick Strong. They're basically setting up the match for later on in the evening, the 8-man tag that everyone was so upset about. Everyone was so upset about it to the point that Tony Khan had to come back to the tweet and say, hey folks, trust me. It's going to be good. It's going to be fine. Trust me. And if there's one thing that I have complete faith in when it comes to AEW these days, it's the multi-man tag matches. It's the trios matches, the 8-mans. They're all a hoot and a holler. And this is where this conglomeration thing shines. So I was like, yeah, I don't know. But of course, people got upset because it's Chris Jericho. That's always the thing. It's always related to Chris Jericho. Every single time. And again, I don't mind. And I understand if you cannot stand Chris Jericho. I'm not even defending him in the sense where, you know, it's like, no, you have to like it. Oh, I don't understand why you don't like it. No, I actually do understand. I actually understand if you have personal issues with him because of the way he allegedly conducts himself, and you know, and the fact that he's always on TV. But the facts are facts here, okay? Facts are facts. The learning tree stuff is working, and I even find myself amused, and it's doing good quarter hours every time. So I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you. You want to go back and talk about Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega, that thing? Yeah, I thought that was tired, and I wasn't interested in it, and I thought it was kind of dumb. And that was like, you know what? Maybe he should take a break for a while. I'm on record. You can go back and check that stuff out. Right up until Kenny Omega had to take time off because of his diverticulitis. Right up until that point, I was like, the Chris Jericho stuff maybe. Yeah. And then he starts pulling out the learning tree stuff, and it works. I'm sorry, it works. He has done it again. And I am not failing. I am not doubting AEW these days when it comes to multi-man matches. I just cannot. I will not. That is an exercise in futility. Yeah, basically, Roderick Strong, basically, he's still trying to pry Kyle O'Reilly back onto his side. You know, here's the thing. I believe we need to wrap up this Undisputed Kingdom stuff. Adam Cole is not there. It's not working. There's no use for that thing. It's just pointless. No use for Taven and Bennett outside of Jay Brones, but we don't need a stable of jabronis. You know what I mean? Like, and Roderick Strong needs to be doing stuff on his own, maybe aligning himself with, you know, other heels here and there. That's fine. But this Undisputed Kingdom stuff, what are we doing? It's pointless. I think it's time to wrap this one up, folks. We gotta take this one home. Then I got sidetracked again from this promo here. Jericho also reminded Orange Cassidy when Kyle O'Reilly talked about, getting Kyle back from Orange Cassidy. Jericho reminded him that he still owes him $7,000 for the jacket he ruined in the mimosa stuff. So even though that stuff was kind of trash, it's still a fun little callback. Pay your bills, Orange. MJF, after this, hits the ring. He's in a tremendous amount of pain, and he's got a splitting headache because of the Tiger Driver 91. And but nonetheless, he threatens the audience if they don't shut up that he's going to go in and beat them all up. Basically, it's a pity party. He says he lost his ring, he lost his championship, now he has herniated discs in his spine, he says. So what does this all lead to? Because he's basically blaming the audience for this. So he renounces his American citizenship since he was going around defending the honor of this great country and the audience let him down. So he says, I will no longer be associated with this garbage country, except for the only place that matters, Plainview, Long Island, New York, which is the most magical place in the world, of course. He basically says Will Ospreay needs to keep his head on his swivel. We're not done here. Because if you ever reach the heights that you think you're going to reach, I will be right there to drag you back down. And then he tries to start talking about Daniel Garcia, who appears from out of the audience and jumps him. Garcia goes for a pile driver. Then he's like, look at these delicious corners here in this ring that I'm going to use to do a top rope turn pile driver. And that's what he does. Well, at least he tries, but then security comes in to try and keep him from going to the turnbuckles to do a pile driver. But he battles his way through security. MJF comes after him, and then he chokes him out, completely puts him to sleep, and then gets set up in the corner. More security come in, along with Scrap Daddy Christopher Daniels, and that allows MJF to take a powder, hit the bricks, get out of the ring. And then Dan Garcia takes the microphone, saying that he stole the Dynamite Diamond ring and pawned it off so he could pay his way to Wembley, buy a round trip ticket to Wembley Stadium. And why didn't the boss pay that for you? I'm just saying. And he says that he is out here. He's basically out for MJF's blood. He says that ruining MJF's life is his fetish. And he got the match made official with Tony Khan. Daniel Garcia versus MJF at All Out. And he wants to drop him on his head, break his neck, and he launches the microphone towards MJF, doesn't just mic drop it. MJF is all the way up the ramp. He launches it at him and he bonks MJF on the head with it like a tremendous throw. I thought this segment ruled so much. And it ruled because of Garcia throwing the mic at him. I mean, what a tremendous segment. All of the segments hit. These were all very good so far. And this was tremendous as well. Does this mean that, again, we were talking about this on the review, but it bears mentioning. Does this mean that Dan Garcia has resigned? I would assume that he has. But apparently his contract is up in October, and I will put my hand into flame. I would bet that we are not going to hear a single thing about Dan Garcia's contract until All Out is done. I am sure that there is going to be no movement, no announcements. They want to keep this alive. I would assume that Tony Khan would lock him down. Apparently, he's not locked down from what the reports say. That Tony Khan is rolling the dice here that Garcia is going to stay. Like, he's laying it on thick, and he's letting Dan Garcia have a match with MJF, a big-time match, in an effort to woo him to stay, essentially. It's a hell of a gamble, and it's a gamble that Tony Khan has taken before and hasn't worked out. But, look, Tony Khan knew Andrade was leaving and yet still put him in the Continental Classic and still had him, have victories and stuff, have big wins. And here we go with Garcia, who might be doing the same thing, and Garcia's going to go out against MJF. Now, the result of All Out is going to be very interesting, because if Garcia wins, then you can, I think it's safe to assume, again, in regards to just basic wrestling logic, that Garcia is staying. If he loses, we're still going to be having this conversation, despite the fact that I think that Garcia is staying, that at the very least, if he hasn't officially signed, he's expressed his intention. He's got a handshake deal, and he's going to stick around. What is Dan Garcia going to do in WWE? He's not going to main roster. They're going to send him to NXT. Is this what we're going to do? Going to send him to NXT? Have some matches with Lexis King, with Eddie Thorpe. Going to go challenge for the title and against Ethan Page, a match that I'm not even sure was ever booked on AEW. Or Joe Hendry. That's happening. Joe Hendry's, he's sticking around. But anyway, this is not an NXT show. Anyway, good angle. Still a lot of intrigue here. We get a hype reel for Ricochet. Of course, it will be debuting later on in the evening. Then we get the 8-man tag between Hook and the Conglomeration, defeating Roderick Strong and Chris Jericho and Big Bill and Brian Keith. I thought this was fun. I thought, again, I was right. And I like being right. There was no reason to be worried about this match. There was no reason to get upset about it. The match was fine. It was fun. It was more than fine. It was a lot of fun. It was a blast. It went through like a breeze. Lots of stuff happening. Great back and forth. Match comes to an end when Hook locks Roderick Strong into the Red Rum, where Roderick Strong has a foot on the rope as he's tapping. Now, I think it's a bit of a weird, right here, essentially, ref, I think it was Aubrey, right? Girl Hebner, I think she completely dropped the ball here. Ref, come on. Didn't see the foot on the rope. And I guess the psychology is, since the ref wasn't breaking up the pin or the submission, the only thing Roderick Strong could do was tap out to get out of the pain. Because otherwise it's weird. Roderick Strong tapping while his foot is on the rope is kind of strange. But nonetheless, he taps out, he taps out, and then after the match, the Undisputed Kingdom and Roderick Strong beat down Hook, and the Conglomeration and the Chris Jericho and his boys are still brawling on the floor. It was a good chaotic finish that ends with Roderick Strong holding the FTW title aloft. I mean, he has a claim here. He has the heel claim of saying, my foot was on the rope, I shouldn't have lost the match. I should not have lost. And he's right. Nothing better than a heel who's right. So clearly, this is going to be a match that's going to be probably added to All Out, and I'm okay with that. Nice little mid-card match. No issues with it. Then suddenly we head over to NXT, where Mercedes Moné is throwing a party backstage to celebrate. There's a whole setup. There's extras in the background. You know, a complete 100% NXT segment setup. There's no two ways to analyze this. This is exactly what it looked like, to the point where Private Party come up doing the CEO dance. Then Isaiah Cassidy hits on her, and Kazuchika Okada appears out of nowhere to stand up for her honor. How do you say bye bitch in Japanese? Sayonara bitches. And I think she mispronounced sayonara. I think that isn't it like, I even mispronounce it, but I'm a North American dork here. I think it's sayonara, right? I'm sure any one of you weebs listening right now will be able to correct me. But she mispronounced it, is my point. I did too. I shouldn't be critical about it, but then again, I'm not being paid millions of dollars to be on television. And this was the most NXT thing. And we're having a celebration later on for Mariah May, but we're having a celebration here as well. I think, why isn't Tony Khan said it, something that I'd been saying myself, because I knew this. There's 27 people in the room. Can these 27 people at least agree to not do the same things? Not book two world title celebrations for your two women's champions on two different segments on the one same show. That is a failure to communicate. An absolute NXT segment. Absolute NXT segment. We get back from commercial. Tony Schiavone is up on the stage to introduce Mariah May, who does her championship celebration, which is basically just her, in a robe, which she teases unveiling. She's holding it, and Tony Schiavone is like hot under the collar. He's like, he's tugging out his collar. He's like, adjusting his necktie, like he's doing his best Rodney Dangerfield here. And she eventually disrobes to reveal like she's wearing lingerie. Is this and the women's world title, of course? Is this the gimmick? Is this what it's going to be? Is this the glamour? I'll tell you one thing. Her promo here was the best promo she has cut since the turn, since the bloody shoe angle. This is absolutely her best promo. But she was going for cheap heat. Talking about women putting things in their mouths and whatever, right? But nonetheless, it felt much more natural, and she seemed much more at ease. Her facial expression, so on and so forth. She was getting heat, which was not the case in the lead up to the show, to the match at All In. And I know the result of the match. I know I didn't care for it. I thought it was a good little match, but nothing to write home about. I know a lot of people liked it more than I did. A lot of people liked it more than I did. I don't think Mariah, ever since the turn, has shown that she has the chops to carry a division on her shoulders, which is what a champion normally should do. But here last night, watching this, I was like, well, this is better, but I still don't quite understand what they're doing here. Is the idea that she's hot and she's going to hide her hotness? Like, here's something else. And it's something that I've never quite understood. Even back in the days, even back in the Attitude Era days, or, over on Nitro, when you'd have, when the women would wrestle and then would do lingerie shots and bikini shots and whatnot, and people, oh, they're in a bikini. But then I'm like, haven't you seen their gear? You look at the wrestling gear versus, them being in lingerie, and then people go, oh my God, she's, going bonkers. I'm like, it's essentially not the same thing, but we're not covering up more with wrestling gear, at least, especially not in the case of Mariah May. I didn't quite understand it back then, and I still don't understand so I don't understand what they're doing here. It's not as if Mariah May has, this very Puritan wrestling gear that covers up everything. No, she has very Joshi inspired gear that is, that shows a lot of skin. How about that? So if her deal is like, no, I'm going to keep my hotness to myself, like, it's fine. It's like, I don't understand. Is it the fantasy of seeing her in lingerie? Honestly, I don't understand. I don't understand what the ticket here is to get heat. I don't get it. But the promo was good. We get a promo from the grizzled young veterans. In fact, a promo that they shot at Wembley, calling the Young Bucks dweebs with Zach Gibson doing that. So that was funny. Basically they cut the same promo live, and it's all right. It's fine. Look, it's the grizzled young veterans. It's fine, and they're getting us hyped for their match against FTR, which should be just a natural build. That's good. We get a recap of Konosuke Takeshita's participation in the G1, showing how well he performed. And you see, this is the difference. This is what I mean. When, I sort of chuckle and snicker when WWE sends people over to Pro Wrestling Noah or to Marigold. Like, they never do recaps of this stuff. Did we get the big some big highlights of AJ Styles versus Marufuji? Did we get it? Did we get, live footage of Utami Hayashishita getting beaten up by Io Shirai? No. Are you going to get some big results for Josh Briggs and Tavion Heights back on NXT? No. This is why I'm still extremely skeptical at the nature of these relationships that WWE is developing. I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. At the very least here, like we said, Takeshita's got, he has they play back the footage, right? I'm actually surprised that they didn't play any footage of Claudio winning the Grand Prix last Friday in Arena Mexico, which, by the way, fun as hell match. That even if you don't watch Lucha Libre on a regular basis, it was fun, and a lot of faces that you would probably recognize in there as well. I highly suggest that you seek it out. It's a long match, but it's a fun match with the pageantry of everything. It was a lot of fun. It's just some good fun pro wrestling, Well done, well put together, well booked, smartly booked. Just good stuff. Claudio wasn't on the show. We didn't have anything, but neither was Takeshita. So, okay, so what are we doing here? Anyway, it's not. I'm saying it, and it kind of counteracts my point, but still, we're recapping Takeshita. They clearly we want to try and push Takeshita again, which we should, because Takeshita ruled. He was one of the best reasons to watch the G1 this year. I don't know. We'll see how things move forward. I mean, he's in a 4-way with that they announced for Rampage with Beast Mortos. Who was it? I can't remember. Now I'm drawing a blank. Brilliant work, Warren. But he's in this tremendous 4-way match for Rampage, which he's probably going to win since he's getting the video packages, right? Maybe this is the right time to do something with Takeshita. I don't know. We'll see. Then we had the big debut of Ricochet against Kyle Fletcher. I'll tell you what, Ricochet looked energized. He looked confident, quick, snappy. He's like, I truly believe that he felt liberated. He felt ready to go. Everything in his body language, everything felt like he was going to get another chance here. That he was, I think he said it himself, right? I've been holding back. No, I'm going to give you back the Ricochet that a lot of my fans want to see, right? And you know, I wouldn't necessarily call myself a Ricochet fan per se, but you know, I wouldn't call it I wouldn't call myself a fan. I'm absolutely a guy who likes Ricochet, and I'm excited to see what Ricochet still has in the tank, because he's got so much still to give. You know, this guy has not been filling up his bump card in any way, shape, or form. So he had his match with Kyle here anyway. You know, I'm already going long, so I'm going to try and wrap this up here. But he has his match, which it was iffy. I don't think Kyle Fletcher and Ricochet had great chemistry. And Ricochet, when he was doing his spectacular moves, he looked tremendous per usual, like kind of reminding us that this guy is incredible. But, you know, when it was time for some back and forth stuff, I don't know. We were a beat off. It was kind of strange, but holy smokes. Like it was really nice to see him do some stuff again, but I'm also going to tell you all, like, it didn't blow me away either, where I'm like, oh my God, I'm still excited. Like, this is just one match, and it's the opener. You're not gonna. It's your opening match, your return match to something else. You know, outside. It's your match outside of WWE, in which a system in which you've been since 2018, if I remember correctly. I'm okay with not emptying out the bag in this match, but you know. Nothing blew me away, but I'll tell you, the energy, the feel of Ricochet, it felt like he was excited, motivated, and he wasn't just going through motions. It felt like it looked like he felt he could do whatever he wanted. But again, I wasn't blown away. I can't sit here and tell you, oh, Ricochet is the next great, you know, the next great wrestler for AEW. And I've told you this. I don't think Ricochet is a top level guy. I don't think he's a top guy. We'll see how things go. Things can change, of course. But I don't think he's, you know, I don't think he's a world champion dude. But I think he's a dude that you definitely want on your roster. I think this is a guy who can work at a really high level. I think. And, you know, we've got a Will Ospreay match on the horizon. That'll be a tell. And you know Will is going to do everything in his power to make his buddy look good. So, I mean, there's still great stuff to come out of this. I think his debut was so-so. You know, like when it comes to the in-ring work, but when it comes to the presence, the energy. I think it was more of a hit than a miss. I'm surprised. I figured this was a great dance partner for him. Doesn't look like it. I don't think these guys had good chemistry. Maybe Ricochet just has to work out the WWE, shed off the WWE kinks too. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff, right? So anyway, After the match, Will Ospreay comes out, and we're expecting the big buddy match, and you're like, oh, here we go. Ospreay's gonna challenge Ricochet to for a shot, but and everyone is expecting that. Everyone's like, oh, here we go, because this is the match everyone is expecting. But Pac runs in out of nowhere, does a surprise Poison Rana. You know what guys usually do? They do like a lariat. You know, they'll do a slam. Then they'll put the boots in. No, but Pac runs in and he's like, sneaky Poison Rana out of nowhere. Tremendous. And he essentially picks up the mic and says, don't you forget about me. Cue the song. He said, he tells Ricochet, welcome, nice to see you. Get to the back of the line. Because Pac is done being shafted. He's done. He's not going to wait another pay-per-view cycle. He had to give up his spot because of stupid MJF and stupid Will Ospreay. He's not giving up his spot anymore. I like this. I thought Pac was tremendous. Another killer segment. Now, could Ricochet have run down before? Sure, but also, who cares? Pac needed just a great spot like this to shine. That poison, attacking someone from behind with a surprise Poison Rana, you don't see that every day. That was amazing. And then Ricochet comes, are you talking to me? I don't think you're talking to me. I'm talking to me. Are you talking to me? When he finally makes his way down to the ring. It's just good stuff. So we're going to get the Ricochet Will Ospreay match, but Pac's making sure that it's not happening just yet. And then for the main event, well, this was the main event match and the main event segment, which is the main event of the show. We get Danielson coming down to the ring, Bryan Danielson with his first appearance with the AEW World Championship. Basically he's happy, saying he tried and failed, finally made it. And then it made me realize, you know what? Isn't it fucking awesome that this title, its prestige and how it's been handled makes it convincing that one of the greatest wrestlers to ever do it was trying to get to the title and had such a hard time doing it because the competition is so stacked in AEW, because the level of champions is so high that he kept trying and he failed, but he finally got there. That adds a lot to the credibility of a world title, where a guy who is unquestionably, again, I don't think this is up for debate, one of the greatest to ever wrestle, had to struggle to get there, where in most other organizations, he would have won the title by now. If he were in TNA, they would have given him the title on the first night in. If he returned to WWE, he'd be right up there in the program. Probably end up winning it as long as Roman's not around. But you know what I mean? Here, he had to struggle. The American Dragon had to struggle to win the AEW World Championship. I like that. I like pointing that out. But he finally made it. And that is a testament to everyone who's held on to it in between. Because it establishes that truly only the best, the top wrestlers in the world hold this title. Truly. So he reminds us that his contract expired on August 1st and that he's going to need next injury sooner than later, and his family is ready for him to come home, but he is not ready to come home. He's not ready to give it up yet. He will not retire as AEW champion. He's going to fight for the title as much as he possibly can. And I was a little worried about that, and I'm glad we're not doing that route, and that continues to add, because the opposite would have been loss of credibility. The guy winning the title and then saying, oh, sorry folks, gotta go home because my 7-year-old wants me back. Here's your title back. That takes away some credibility. This is that. So basically, another great promo here from Danielson, where he's saying, I struggled to get this title. Yes, I need the surgery. Yes, I made a promise to my daughter, but I just won this title. And I'm just not going to give it up. I'm going to defend it because I believe in this title. I believe in this company. That's strong. That is strong. And it's a hell of a statement. So basically he has an open challenge. First come, first serve. And then Jack Perry appears on the Tonytron, and he basically challenges him for the title. But it was a ruse because then Jack Perry attacks him from behind. Now, the issue I have with this, first of all, I don't have an issue with Jack Perry, but we'll get to that. The issue that I do have is, how did Jack Perry know that Bryan Danielson was going to do an open challenge? Because he clearly had to tape the pre-tape on the Tonytron to set up the ambush from behind. Yet Danielson gave no indications that he was coming out for a challenger. In fact, the segment was Bryan Danielson will address his future. So this doesn't make sense. This makes no sense. Because Perry would have had to known that this challenge was coming up. So it's a little thing, but it doesn't make sense. And for some reason, people are upset about this. People get upset about anything you will tell me, and on that front, I will agree with you. But why would anyone be upset with Jack Perry? Like, truly, nice little first defense for Danielson, a guy who, Danielson will be able to have a good little match with. Won't tear the house down. It's not going to pivot the course change the course of professional wrestling forever, but it'll be a nice little defense, one that Danielson can win. It's absolutely fine. Good little placeholder match. It's fine to lead into something else, something that can be built real easily in 2 weeks and doesn't need to have a tremendous story. It's just like, all right, open challenge. It's Perry. He's a little asshole. He's a little punk. He thinks, is he shooting over? Is he biting off more than he could chew? Probably. And that's the idea. It's fine. Plus, you know what? All Out, where is it being held? In Chicago. Who doesn't like Jack Perry? Chicago. This is going to be fine. Like, it's actually a really smart choice. It's actually a really, really smart choice. So it's good. I don't have a problem with this. Because you know what? Here's the thing. You know what the big match is for All Out? I don't care who you would have put with Danielson. I don't care who was the challenger you could have devised to have to challenge Danielson 2 weeks after winning it. Remember, 2 weeks, the big match is going to be Hangman and Page. That's the one everyone wants to see. And it's going to be in a cage. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be tremendous. It's going to be instant heat. This is the match everyone... That's the big match of the show. Danielson's going to be on the card, and he's going to have a nice little title defense. Is it telegraphed? Probably. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's what happens after. Because then, don't forget, then after there's Grand Slam coming up. There's going to be Full Gear. This is where things get interesting. This is where the things with that might intersect with Jon Moxley. I still think it's a good story for Jon Moxley to take the belt away from Danielson and forcibly retire him. I think it's a super compelling story, but we're going to need a little time to build that so that it is interesting. And like I said at the top of the show, I find that the booking in AEW has been much better in recent months, much better, especially leading up to All Out. Right now, I would say I have more faith that they will pull off something good than the opposite. It took them a while to get back to this spot with me personally, but this is where we're at. So I'm feeling good about it. Great final segment. Confident. A confident show booked by someone who feels like they have their mojo set. That the big questions have been settled. That his locker room isn't at each other's throats anymore. There's no nonsense. I feel like we've shaken off the specter of 2023. Finally. And now we're focusing on what we have and trying to continue to elevate AEW. That's how it feels like. Didn't Tony a few months ago say he's got a few pots simmering? Isn't that what he said? He was right. I was on my guard, but he was right. And if we continue to deliver, then that's how you rebuild customer trust. Because there's a lot of rebuilding of that has to happen. We're on our way. I can feel it. And I feel like I should wrap up today's review on top of that. Thank you very much for watching and listening. One more like on YouTube, one more review, one more rating. That all that stuff would be great. And why don't you subscribe if it's your first time here on top of that? Hey, why don't you? Otherwise, I will be back on, I'll be back Tuesday for another live recording of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast, 7 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to be here. Subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss it. Otherwise, look, have a great rest of your week. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.